I'm Luke Summerhays.
I'm James J. Moyles.
And I'm James the Jaster Stewart.
And you're listening to Monster Mash.
And in this week's episode, we are hunting Balahara.
Wild flame, you make my heart sing. You make the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. They did.
Desert-dwelling leviathans that build carapaces out of the fulgurite formed by lightning strikes. They use their flexible skeletons and serpentine bodies to create quicksand traps for unwary prey. Inside their mouths are multiple eye-like sensory organs. The mucus they secrete contains luminous bacteria and is believed to aid visibility while they are submerged and to other low-light conditions like sandstorms.
Its eyes are inside its mouth.
Yes.
Ugh.
Doesn't sound ideal.
Yeah. I mean... Ugh.
Like, what does it do? What does it do when it's trying to eat something, right? It's like retract its eyeball.
Watches it go down.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, it says eye-like, so I guess
Yeah.
they're probably like
Yeah.
less
Like more of a sensory type thing.
less easily damaged than our eyes.
I guess if you're burrowing through sand and such, you want your eyes to be protected, right?
Brings them inside, I guess, while it's like it probably closes
let me
it
just
up.
close
Its
its mouth,
weird
right?
tri-mouth thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was, I think, one of the first monsters. I mean, the first monster we see in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But was it one of the first monsters they showed off in the trailer as well?
Yeah.
It wasn't the first, but it was pretty early. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or you got, like, I think in one of the
So they
trailers,
showed,
you
like,
got, an early glimpse of, like, the Shagama getting
wrapped up by one, yeah.
Getting wrapped up by it.
And then they did like a very like story trailer, which basically just showed the opening of the game. So of course that showed it.
It's one of the few cutscenes where you actually see your hunter use a weapon. It's when they grab the greatsword. That I think Gemma throws to them, and then cleaves the Balahara across the head.
But also, I think, have you already chosen your weapon at that point? And
Nope.
it shows you the one you chose. Nope.
Nope.
I like
That would be very cool. A lot of work though.
Yeah, I like that they went with the classic greatsword though, like for that cutscene, like because that's the main weapon that Capcom have mentioned before. Like that's where every weapon kind of started.
Yeah, and it
like,
clearly
branches
is,
off
right?
of what the greatsword like initially built up on.
Is that like your first weapon in the original Monster Hunter? You don't get a choice. You have to use greatsword.
No, I think in the first Monster Hunter game it starts you with sword and shield.
Yeah, I always see
no
that
other
as like
options.
a first weapon than greatsword, but I think greatsword is the iconic.
Yeah, I think
weapon,
from a design standpoint, it's greatsword, and they designed out from there.
Yeah, marketing
But then
stuff
they probably
as well, right?
Yeah, and then they probably designed sword and shield to be a tutorial weapon because the greatsword was a little bit complicated.
So for the Balahara, I mean, we've had no shortage of sand monsters across the series.
Well, yeah, it amuses because every time we have some sort of burrowing sand monster, I'll bring up on this podcast, oh, it's like Dune. And then they always make one that's even more like Dune than the last one I said that about.
Yeah.
And kind of culminating here.
Yeah, I don't think they can get much closer unless they...
Other than making it absolutely massive, yeah.
Give it like a bristly mouth and making it rideable in Stories 3.
The old David Lynch Dune had like a 3-part mouth, which is similar to Balahara's one.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Balahara in general is like, he's way more kind of alien-like than any other monster the series has had before.
Yeah, well, I think it's the glowing blue inside of his mouth is very like modern Hollywood alien. I put in the notes the Edge of Tomorrow aliens. I don't know if you remember those.
Yes. Yep.
But yeah, they were just like a bunch of writhing metal tentacles with glowing lights. So
what a film, by the way! Like one that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did.
It's an old timer, sure.
Well, it's a good film because although it's a Tom Cruise action vehicle, he starts off playing a dick, and Tom Cruise is so good at playing an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't do it enough because he loves playing the hero, I think.
Yeah.
But Tom Cruise as a villain is amazing. Yeah, I wonder, maybe they threw in a monster like this just to be like a little bit different from everything else. Or maybe they deliberately thought we need to make a monster that glows to have in the sandstorm.
When I first saw like the trailers, and I thought like that was the approach they were going to take for the theme of the game in general, because obviously it's wild, you're going to an area you've not been before, so obviously the monster would be more alien than you've seen before if you're exploring a place that's maybe uninhabited. There is a bit more of that like with later monsters, but like I think in terms of something that looks alien, Balahara's probably still top of the pile.
I mean, if you want to talk about things that look like Alien, Ridley Scott Alien, well, we'll come to that in some later areas, but there's some definite inspiration down the line, for sure. But, the Balahara, like, I think is quite a really good burrowing sand monster, because some of them, whilst, yes, they burrow in sand, it's not really the point of the monster, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they do it, like, between bits of actually fighting it, right?
Like Diablos is like one I thought of immediately, like because Diablos is a sand monster, but it's more so about charging at you, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that because in the Monster Hunter movie, the Diablos spent most of its time in the sand and was acting like the thing out of Dune, and like since then they've made a monster that actually would have worked much better in that script than Diablos did. Because it was acting much more like a Balahara.
It's kind of funny that they already had one though. Like they're never going to pick this monster, but Nibble Snarf. Like,
I want Snarf back.
Imagine if Tony Jaa was there going, "Oh, Nibble Snarf."
Bring back the Snarf.
Fuck your chicken jockey. That would have had people popping off.
That's way more like Dune, like you
just to date before, this podcast.
Right? I've said before, like in one of the recordings, like about how these podcasts are great, like recording memories. Capsules. Yeah, little time capsules. And I know if I go back and listen to this in, let's say, 30, 40 years' time, where I'm an old man, I'm gonna like, what the fuck is he on about? What the fuck is even there? A chicken jockey.
Especially as we're not even Minecraft guys. I just know that from
the memes.
The memosphere. Yeah. The obnoxious Americans ruining cinema experiences as per usual.
The moral of that aside is bring back Nibble Snarf.
Yep.
That's funny as well. Like,
bring back
he's a Leviathan
Big Heat as well.
Like, as well as Balahara being a Leviathan. It's kind of interesting how like different they are in terms of their design.
Yeah, I wouldn't have pegged Nibble Snarf as a Leviathan from looking at it, because it's not really long and thin.
Yeah, the most of Leviathans.
Whereas, because to go back to Balahara, as we probably should, it is, if you just look at it, like standing still, it is that Leviathan, long neck, long tail, arms and legs, sort of Legiacrus body type.
Yeah.
But it's got like knobbly armoured scales that are like twisted, which is such a cool design. Mercy saw me hunting it and commented on it. She loves the design of this monster. I guess from burrowing through the sand all the time, it's like built like a drill.
Yeah.
Like if you ever look at like not just like a home drill, but like a big mining boring drill, it reminds me of one of those. And then I guess even the mouth, right, the three prongs, that is like the three drills at the front of like a rock boring mine.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite clear where the inspiration came from for that.
And even like some of its
Which
moves,
makes-
like it evokes a drill as well. Like there's one where it'll almost like spin up its tail and then like jab you with it. Yeah, really cool design from that aspect. I noticed that too.
Which makes me think that if there is any similarities to Shai Hulud from Dune, they're purely coincidental. Because I can actually see how they arrived at all of those design decisions.
Yeah.
I mean,
just from...
big
And we know
Saturn,
from...
right?
we know from the... what's the ramming dinosaur that's in all the games? Baroth.
Oh, yeah.
We know that they do design monsters based on industrial machines.
On vehicles,
so...
yeah. I was actually bringing that up. But like,
Bad
we already
Goose,
had
the-
in the Nibble Snarf chat, but
B-52 bomber.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, true.
Valstrax, like a Falcon, Jet Falcon.
Yeah, fighter jet.
Fighter jet. Anytime anyone mentions Valstrax to me, I instantly get a little video play in my head of a video got saved on my Switch where we're all fighting Valstrax, and then all you see is Andy playing Lance, doing the Lance charge, rocketing towards it, and then it takes off, and he just gets like sent flying back, like by the planes. I have got so many videos saved on my Switch that I'm gonna have to try and upload before Switch 2 comes out of Andy eating shit in Monster Hunter.
It's the surprising thing there is like Andy on Lance of all things.
Have you heard of the thing in Japan where you can hire someone to go to your work and get yelled at by your boss for you, so you don't have to?
No.
For like big companies where it's a bit faceless and your boss wouldn't recognize you anyway, people hire someone to go and get a bollocking for them.
That's great.
But we were discussing it, and my friend Rob decided you can hire someone to eat shit for you.
Ooh.
And then our mutual friend Matty thought he was being literal, just like, ugh, what the fuck? So now whenever I hear the phrase eat shit, I'm reminded of that. Like, no, not literally eating shit. Although, if you went on Craigslist, I'm sure you could.
There's probably a
Shit
market.
for you.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'd like
yeah,
to
the
preface
classic genre of Andy eating shit is
not what you think, listeners.
I think I have one
That's
of-
a really
it might have
twisted
been you,
WarioWare
actually, Jay.
minigame that Nintendo put in that one time,
back in the old pre-world days where we were playing Generations and it had the loading screens between sections of the map. I've got a great clip of we're waiting for it to go to sleep in the next area, so I just launch you into the area with my hammer.
The Balahara, the actual fight, I was initially thinking it had a risk of being potentially quite an annoying fight. Like
Okay.
this, like when I saw like early footage of it and like the quicksand and the sand traps it was making, I was thinking this could great if it spends a lot of time underground, and you know you've really got to. I know screamer pods are a way around that, but they might eventually grow resistant, and then you're just playing a waiting game as opposed to actually fighting the monster, which is what we want to do. But yeah, no, I am impressed by the fight because it's a lot more active than I think I initially thought it was going to be. Like we spoke about the drill move it's got, it gobs the mucus at you as well to introduce water blight, I guess, for the first time if this is your first monster.
Well, and also, even in terms of going underground, it does it quite dynamically. It goes like under and then up again, sort of like a dolphin in the water.
Yeah, that's a good
goes
point.
and spins around you and pops up. It's not like we talked about old hunts with Diablos, where when it's under the sand, it's just under the sand.
Yeah.
And it's not interacting with you. And it's like... I guess Diablos does that thing where it pops his head up a couple times before it comes up.
I think that's when you can hit it
But
with a
it
timer,
tend-
right?
Yeah,
Diablos,
but it's
yeah.
more like you interact it when it's above ground. You don't interact with it when it's underground.
Yeah,
Whereas Balahara is dynamically going back and forth a lot.
That's
more.
a cool thing to see as well. Like when it is like kind of swimming underneath the sand, like you can see it kind of changing the formations of the sand dunes about the place. But then kind of maybe tries to trap you in one of its sinkholes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that this sand monster I think has over all the others is with the power of the PlayStation 5. The you can see the sand like undulating and moving in a really cool way, which I don't think we've seen.
I think even like if you're in the right area, like near
going
like,
under the sand beasts,
near that cave it generally goes to when it's like kind of almost dead. Like if it sand traps in that area, it will just drag you underground, and that's off the way it starts when you first fight the monster in the cutscene. I believe like Zato goes into the sand trap, you follow it in, and you drop down, and then like the quest starts. Like, such
That's
a
right,
cool,
yeah.
cool introduction like moment for the monster as well.
Yeah. When you're saving
Zato, yeah.
Oh yeah, because first you save Nona in literally the opening, like the first bit you can play of the game, right?
Yeah, you don't see
After
the
a million
Balahara
hours
for
of
like
cutscenes.
ages, basically, in terms of like gameplay.
Because in that segment, it's like a horde of Balahara. They almost felt more like a small monster than a big monster, and you're just
I was about to say that
taking
when like
pot shots to get rid of it.
I did wonder in the initial trailers that it's a small monster because I guess we hadn't seen the herds.
The herd dynamic, yeah.
Which I think is, I don't know if we've mentioned
It's almost like a thing for the trailer.
It's underused, right? It is underused.
Yeah.
I think that maybe ties into what you're saying though, like maybe like they tried it and it just became like too annoying to fight the monster if there was like too many of them about like all the time.
I guess, but then they give you tools like the large dung pods and such, right?
Yeah.
So
they can definitely balance it.
But then ultimately, if it's just a thing where you use a dung pod and they go away, then it's barely a mechanic, right? True. I think it would have been good if there'd been one or two monsters. Like, so the Doshagama, the first time you hunt it, you have to like separate the alpha from the pack or whatever. It would have been good if they'd made it so certain monsters, that's just their thing, and you always have to do it. But as I said, it just feels like a scripted event, and then I haven't really... Since I did it in the story, I haven't really thought about herds. And yeah, like, even Balahara, like, when you actually hunt it for the story, it separates itself from the herd in, like, an on-rails section. And then that's not really what you're doing in the hunt. The hunt is just,
I think that's something
like you
like
said,
they
you
could definitely play about
start
with, like,
underground
more
with it.
for like maybe different monsters, like because they've always played with it a little bit. Like even in like Rise, you had like the
Yeah,
Great
like-
Izuchi with the mini Izuchis, like mimic.
Yeah, we've definitely had monsters with small monsters. And I think we said when we were talking about Great Izuchi, it would be good to see it if the like backup monsters weren't so puny and irrelevant.
Yeah.
And we talked about maybe they should make a greater Izuchi with two great Izuchis. Which is almost what they kind of do with the herd mechanic, right? Where you have the alpha Doshagama and
The
it has a
alpha,
couple
yeah.
regular Doshagama. So I think I would like to see that.
I wonder, this is just pure speculation, I've not heard anything, but I do wonder if maybe the herd mechanic was more pronounced earlier in the development and then maybe they're getting some feedback that people weren't super hot on the Rampage.
Well, I was going to say exactly that. Yeah, maybe it probably was like partly inspired by, or at least in conversation with the other team making the Rampage. Like they obviously they're both in the same building, right? And I think because people talk about it like there's two Monster Hunter teams, but it's not like the staff on one team never work on the other team.
Yeah, it's always like chopping and changing.
Yeah. So definitely. But I mean, I think part of the reason people didn't like the Rampage is more just that it felt like a very separate thing.
And they had a gimmicky.
If you were doing,
yeah.
Whereas if you were just in the regular maps and had to deal with that many monsters,
I think more people with
it's
Rampage,
not like-
more people
because
wanted
I think
it to
we
be like
definitely enjoyed
More people wanted the rampage to be like almost a horde mode, where like you defeat one monster,
Yeah.
one comes in, you defeat that, like kind of like a hunt-a-thon like sort of style, and it became like more of a tower defense strategy.
It's like tower
aspect
defense,
to it.
yeah. Did they
Anything
have
on-
small monsters in the rampage? I can't remember.
No.
Because that would have just been like a regular old horde mode in a way.
Yeah.
Because I guess even the big monsters ended up feeling like that because you were getting rid of them pretty quickly.
Mhm.
That's where they should have done the old Greater Azuchi and Great Azuchi thing. Just do that for like all the monsters, like
Yeah.
super version. With two by
Well,
each side.
they brought the apexes, right?
Yeah, I done part of it. Like, there's good ideas there. It's just, poorly executed, like, overall.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a shame they didn't go back and give us some more Rampage in Sunbreak rather than just completely dropping it. Because I think they could have made something pretty cool if they'd stuck with it a bit more. But such is life.
Mm-hmm.
The Balahara, when it fights other monsters in Turf Wars, is very cool. And like you said, Jay, that's the first we really saw of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it wrapping itself around the monster. Which is just very much just Capcom showing off how good they are animating monsters, but it looks amazing.
Reminds me a bit of the Geratidus and Baroth Turf War from World.
Yes! Yeah. And then the very, very similar Beotidus and
What's
whatever the
Sailor
Rami
does
boys
that
called.
turf war with the Shagama? Isn't it like two Balahara that twist around it? Or is it just the one?
I think it's only one. I think it's just one. I think it's so wriggly that it.
It's
Yeah,
so
it just
long
looks like
that
the-
it's like,
yeah.
yes.
I had forgotten Beotidus was even a thing.
Because, yeah, it literally recreated Barath and Geratidus with two ice versions at the start of
Yeah,
Iceborne.
Anything on the name, Luke?
Yeah, so apparently it comes from two Sanskrit words. With, together it means, like, strong one or possessor of strength. Which makes sense for the people living in the desert would call it, the strong thing, because it is probably the strongest thing they generally deal with day to day. But apparently also Balhara, without the A, is a name in Urdu meaning King of Kings.
Behold the king, the King of Kings.
I mean, I was going to go down the Jesus route, but Triple H probably more appropriate. Probably safer to offend Hunter Hearst Helmsley than the Catholic faith.
Look, I don't know, man. Wrestling fans, they're feral.
My mind went straight to
Yeah,
the true King of Kings, like Henrik Larsson.
And even more feral Celtic fans.
On the hoops.
I buy the first name more than the second, because the second, I mean, Ray Dow is in the, in the plains, in the Windward Plains, right?
He's
So,
Yeah.
the apex of the region.
Yeah, definitely he's not the King of Kings around here.
no.
But I also get the impression, like, Radar would not mess... Like, humans wouldn't really interact with Radar, right?
They're
Because I
just
doubt he's their
hide,
primary
yeah.
prey.
Yeah.
I don't think he cares much about the humans unless they start...
That's
building
the funny
cities
thing, like because you mentioned in the
Showing off.
Balahara description, he takes like the Fulgurite or
Mm.
puts it over his scales, and who's the one that's making all the Fulgurite in the plains? It's Radau, or
Mhm.
just the storms in general. Like,
It's the circle of life.
I wonder then if you mention part of it coming from Sanskrit, if that's. I'm really curious about where they get the weapon names from for these monsters, because, as we'll hear shortly, they do pull them from somewhere. It's not just random made up words. So if you know what the Balaharan weapon names are, please tell us. Like, we've got a Sansi Vesponen, a Sansi Siamitia. It looks like it comes from, certainly not English. It's been pulled from another language for the latter half of the weapon names. So yeah, if you know, let us know.
Well, when my Italian friends are going to visit their auntie, I'm like, where are you going? They're like, I'm going to see your Mitia.
Good. I heard through the grapevine that we've got some listener questions and comments.
We do. Well, first, some guy called Jake Summerhaze, must be a fan of mine, is saying, what weapons have you all been enjoying so far in Wilds?
I love the idea that somebody out there's made a username based off your name, like they're fucking Sephiroth fan XX.
Summer Haze.
I don't know why you're acting like that's so unbelievable.
Weapons, well, I've been a dual blades guy since the start of Wilds. First time I played the weapon, really enjoying it. A lot of the weapons I've played before. I mean, I played a bit of Sword and Shield, a lot of Sword and Shield, in fact. So, maneuverability is not anything new for me. But I think just the sheer relentlessness of the dual blades is really, really appealed to me. Being able to play about with more kind of status and element weapons, which is not something I usually do. I normally just go for big number better. Whereas, I've been pretty much solely relying on the Lala Barina weapon just because of how insane paralysis is when combined with the blades.
The Sword and Shield in this game.
I probably would. Yep, you're probably not wrong.
Like just you mentioned there about the dual blades having the maneuverability, like Sword and Shield's like still got that, and it's one of my favourites in Wild, Sword and Shield. Like it's just so like versatile and kind of everything's got that maneuverability. You can get KOs with the shield bashes, like good as a status weapon. Like it's got everything you would want in a weapon, I think.
Not everything though. No oils.
No oils.
Where's my oils?
Yeah, bring back the oils, Capcom.
But yeah, so
I've been a big.
I was just going to say to wrap up the dual blades thing, and also the windbreak attack where you become a human Beyblade and rocket along the length of the monster. Never grows old, and there'll be a monster coming up that I will talk about that.
It feels kind of bad though, like when you go.
Well, Balahara's quite a long monster. That must have been a decent one for
It's true. It's true, but once you've experienced the longest monster, everything pales in comparison.
Yeah, I was just going to say there, like when you do that, like the wind attack with Joe Blades, like on a smaller like monster, like a Congalala or something, it's just like it doesn't feel that satisfying. Still good,
True.
but
that makes sense. So anyway, I've been a Switch Axe boy in Wilds. Never played it before. Just wanted to try something different. So I was Charge Blade in Rise, and Charge Blade felt like I was always just trying to get to the point of using the big bashy boy. Whereas Switch Axe feels like a nice rhythm of I'm using the sword, I'm using the axe, I'm using the sword, I'm using the axe.
yes.
And I don't even think I understand this weapon yet anyway. Like, I haven't watched much in the way of tutorials. I probably am not getting peak performance out of it at all, so I'm excited to actually do that and then get more good. But Jeff, you're the one who's played, like, probably more weapons than the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'd like...
So have you dabbled with everything?
I've not done, like, Switch Axe and Charge Blade yet, but, like, mostly in Longsword is the other one. But, like, out of the weapons I have tried, like, my favourites are, like, Lance, Bow, and Greatsword. Like, Lance especially, like, it's been my main weapon, like, since Try. And I think in Wilds, like, Lance is, like, one of the best iterations of the weapon in the whole series. It's just got, like,
Nice.
they nailed the momentum down of, like, it being unmovable like tank that still outputs like a lot of damage, good counter hits. It's just so satisfying.
Power Clash is very cool as well.
Yep. That's another thing. Like I wish that mechanic happened a bit more in general in the game. Like it's fun to do. It's a shame that it goes on to a bit of a long cooldown after you get the first one. But yeah, they'd be my top 3 so far.
And then we also have a question from enemy of the show, Chris Massive Das Pengili, saying, which Masher, or beyond, would survive the Dune universe?
Is he trying to sneak in here with Beyond?
He wants us to throw in some
no.
Yeah, game show. But we'll stick to Mashers. Let's stick to the
core Mashers. Oh.
Here's the thing about the Dune universe that I think is most relevant here.
Mm-hmm.
Following the Butlerian Jihad, there are no computers in that universe. So who among us could survive best without computers?
I think I can do that.
I'm
not saying it wouldn't. It would be easy, but I think I could do that. I'd be more worried about being in a fucking desert.
But he says the universe. He doesn't. He doesn't necessarily say Arrakis.
Right.
You could be on having a nice cushy life.
I'll be avoiding the desert planet then.
Whatever the Atreides planet is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not confined to Arrakis, I'd probably be all right. It's a.
I mean, Andy is out of there immediately. No way. I do not think Andy is surviving a world without computers.
Man can't survive without a USB slot on his sofa, let alone a. I think I would struggle a bit. I think I would struggle. And again, if we are confined to Arrakis, in fact, let's do easy mode, not Arrakis, hard mode, Arrakis. So I think I would be okay. I would learn to live with life without the computer, but I would miss my memes. Chicken jockey.
Just try and make like real life memes to get
real life memes, jokes.
Real life memes, yeah, jokes. Good point.
So I do enjoy going outside and getting away from the computers. So I think I would be alright.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would be grand. Yeah, and I think Jas would be alright as well. Masters
It'd be
a
like an
card.
adjustment period initially. Like I'm not really an outdoorsy kind of person, but like I think once I'm in the rhythm of it, I'd be fine.
I put out 3 podcasts a week about computer games. There'd be an adjustment period.
But if we're on hard mode and we're on Arrakis, I'm humped. I can't do the heat. I can't do it. I'm a Scotsman. Come on now.
I probably am the biggest. Probably am the biggest summer fan, right?
See, I could see Mus ending up becoming the Lisa Al Gaib, just ingratiating himself with the Fremen. Out of all of us, he's the one I picture in that position. I don't know why. I just see him being there.
I think Mus is very he could be quite matter of fact about food. Like the rest of us, we like our grub. We want to eat nice stuff. Whereas I think Mus would be quite happy just slurping nutrients through a still suit if he had to. So yeah, I think Mus would be the one who survived on Arrakis.
There you go. There's your answer, Mus. Scientifically deduced.
So Jay, you said you have some tidbits for us about the Lala Barina weapon naming convention.
Well, not me personally, but my brother, Stephen Moyles. He reached out to me.
Or was it just like a fan taking the Moyles name?
It could have been a fan. You're not wrong. Yeah, because last time speculating about the Lalabarina weapons like being some sort of like scientific field. Like they had like selenocosm was one, so I was thinking something to do with study of the moon or stars or something. But no, all the Lalabarina weapons, they're all taken from different genus of tarantula.
Oh.
Like if you look up tarantula genus, you will see amongst that list, if you click show more on Google, like selenocosm's in there. They've got other ones in there that are also selenocosmia, there's one. Loads of them. They're all genus of tarantula, which he pointed out makes a bit of sense with the fact that it used its hairs to attack. Much like the hairy tarantula. So, pressure's on, Stephen. Now you're the weapon guy, so what's the Balahara mean? Well, next time, it's a hairy situation. It's the Dishagama we'll be hunting next time, so please make sure to join us for that one. Until then, look, do the thing.
Yeah, you can find us on Blue Sky at Podcast. You can go to podcastios.org to find links to the other podcasts that we create, or you can go to patreon.com/podcastios to support this podcast, help keep it online, etc., etc. We'd love it if you went to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening and gave us a 5-star rating and a review to help other Monster Hunter fans find the show. We're also on YouTube, of course, so please do like and subscribe. Send your questions and comments. And please do your very best to... we talked about the chicken jockey earlier, so I'm going to say log into Minecraft and in popular video game Minecraft create a character, let's call him Tronald Dump, and shoot him to death, and then maybe create another character called like Melon Husk and shoot him to death, and then maybe my Switch 2 won't be so fucking expensive. In Minecraft.
In Minecraft, yeah.
Of course.
But also in real life, do shoot those two people.
Catch us next time.
Cheerio.
Perfection.